Well, you don't mind if I sit down, do you? It's been a long day already, but it's okay. I had barbecue for lunch, so we're all good. Okay, so hi, thank you again for the intro. My name is Mike Pell. I lead innovation for Microsoft in New York City. So the program that I'm part of, the Garage, is really a mechanism for employees to take their ideas and their passion and do something with it. So it's not an incubator, it's not an accelerator, it's not a venture program. It's literally just a program that says, you know what, if you as a Microsoft employee have an idea, there's a group of people around the world who would love to work with you, who would love to talk to you, who would love to tinker and sort of try things out. And so the way that we run the Garage program is to make this available to everybody all the time. Because I'm in New York City, I got to build out the Garage that's there really for our customers. Because all of our customers are in New York or they pass through New York during the year. So I get something very unique. I get a chance to not only work with all these amazing people inside Microsoft, I get to work with C-suite execs and business leaders from our top customers. And I like to say my day job is disrupting the thinking of the world's most successful companies, which is a lot of fun. So what we do in the Garage is not so dissimilar from what many people do. I know that people, whether you're in a startup, you're in a medium-sized company, enterprise company, everybody is concerned about innovation, right? Everybody's trying to figure out the next thing. Many businesses are trying to reinvent themselves. Many businesses are just trying to eke out more operational efficiency because they're buying into the narrative that if they figure out AI, they can get rid of half their staff. That's like, none of you are laughing, right? Because that's what people are doing. But yeah. No, it's okay. So I'll tell you a story. Head of a very prestigious law firm comes into the Garage and he says, "Hey, Mike, tell me about this AI thing. Is it true that it can do this and this and this?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, it can do that, but it can't replace people." He's like, "No. I need to get rid of some of my How many of my paralegals can I lay off?" And I was like, "Wow. Okay, we're not there yet." It can do a lot of what they might be able to do, but doing it in the way that people do is different. And so I always like to start off by saying, if you have ever heard me speak about anything, I will always tell you the people side of the equation is always the most important, right? Like I'm a technologist, I'm a designer, I love technology, but it is not the point ever. Technology is an accelerator, it's an enabler, it's a way to get things done more effectively, but it is not a replacement for humans and creativity. And that's sort of why we're here today. We've learned a lot about what the workplace of the future is going to look like just because we're in the middle of it right now. I get to see all these teams of executives and different people coming in and what they're worried about, what they're interested and excited by. I work with students in New York City at Columbia and NYU and in Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon and other places. So I get to see both sides. The kids who are very excited about what's happening, but also very apprehensive about not being able to get a job. And then also large companies who are going, wait a second, we really have to figure out this whole efficiency thing. Like AI is the key to us being more effective, right? Because that's the narrative. Like AI can help you with operational efficiency. But the truth is, to me, there's two parts to this AI puzzle. One part is going to be the operational efficiency side. And yes, machine learning, artificial intelligence, agents, all these things are very, very good in some cases at streamlining and doing all the tedious things and just getting things done so much faster than we were able to do, which leads to operational efficiency, which will essentially reduce your operational cost. That's great. Love it. We're very good at that. The more important part over on the other side is growth. And if you don't focus on growth, you will not be in business, period. History is littered with companies who ignored the growth side of the business and only focused on operational efficiency, and they're no longer here, right? Their competition or some startup came out of nowhere and ate their lunch, and they're gone. This sounds far-fetched, especially for a very large company making billions of dollars, but the truth is everybody realizes this now. You're like a few steps away from your competitor just literally taking your business away and it never coming back. And the way that we like to look at this is not a bad thing. This is an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for all of us to sort of pause and sort of reconsider how we're doing business, what we're doing in our business, and whether we should even be in this business. And that's what I like to do in the garage. That's essentially what I take people through. And I sort of want to take you through that today to try to be useful, right? To try to give you something that would be valuable for you to walk away with. In all my travels, talking to executives and working with students, one thing became very, very clear to me. Knowing how to use artificial intelligence, knowing how to use, whether it's ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude, whatever you like using, building agents, like awesome, that agents are super cool. But the part of this that is the most important is not your technical ability to figure out how to make AI do something. The more important part is the part about you figuring out how to do something. Is not trusting, or relying on the machine to do this all for you, but to figure out for yourself, what am I special at? What's my superpower? What's the thing that will differentiate me? How am I going to get that promotion? How am I going to get that new job? How am I going to get my startup funded? You have to be creative. You have to be clever. You have to be willing to think about things differently. And so to me, my assertion is AI has flattened the playing field, right? Everybody has access to all of this functionality for free in many cases. You literally can do things you were never going to have enough time to do in your lifetime. Now it takes a few seconds to be able to do them. Everybody's got access to that. Why are you going to be successful? Why are you going to be able to compete? Why is your company going to survive? It's not because you know how to use the technology. It's because you are going to be creative. And I always like to say, and you've heard me say this before, creativity has a branding problem, right? When many business people hear the word creativity, they think, oh, the creatives, yeah, the kids who wear the funny clothes over there and they're so cute. But creativity is in every single aspect of business. It's in engineering, it's in medicine, it's in biology, it's in marketing, it's in sales, it's in legal. Every aspect of business has an element of creativity to it, but we call it different names. We call it being ingenious or clever, or incredibly efficient, or elegant. But the fact is, it's you. It's what you bring to the table that is the most important, always. You have to even, I'll just take an example of using an AI system. I'm lazy, I'm going to admit it. I just I don't write 5-page long prompts so I get exactly the right answer. I'm like, hey, how do I do that thing? And it'll say whatever it says. And if I didn't get enough information, I'll ask again, and keep getting more detail. You do not have to write 5-page long prompts to get what you want. If you do, you will get an outstanding answer. So I'm not discouraging you from doing that, but I'm saying the technologies that exist today are amplifiers of your own creativity, right? And that, again, I'm just going to come back to the point. Of all the things you could do, of all the things your team can do, your company can do, you have to figure out how to be the best at what you do yourselves. The machines are not going to help you do that, right? This is a people thing that we have to focus on. So you may say to yourself, well, I'm an accountant. I'm a numbers guy. I'm very analytic. Well, guess what? Accountants are incredibly creative people, right? There's problem solving. There's figuring out how to synthesize answers to things of, just looking at numbers. You're forming incredible mental models all the time. This is the kind of stuff that each of us have to step back and figure out for ourselves. What is it about us that's so interesting and clever that we can sort of leverage and utilize to become even better at what we do? Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm telling you, I've been right in the middle of this. The machines, the technology is not going to save you. It's going to help you, but you can't just rely on it as like a crutch, like a thing that is just going to solve all your problems. It doesn't work that way. You solve your problems. Right, and that's what we've learned. That's what we teach. That's what I like to do with people is show them that it's really not, as great as all this technology is. It's really not the technology. It's what you do with it. So I'll just tell you a story really quickly. 12 years ago, Microsoft got a new CEO, Satya Nadella. He had been a longtime Microsoft guy. He really didn't like the culture of Microsoft at that point. He had run our very large cloud business, but we were very awful to each other at that point. We were very siloed. We were highly competitive with each other. We didn't like to collaborate. We didn't want to cooperate. We were just sort of doing our thing because we were rewarded on individual excellence. that kind of resulted in very famously there was the Microsoft stack ranking system of rewarding performers that led to a lot of competition amongst teammates, right? Not a good thing. Satya knew this, he wanted to change it, and so he had an idea. What would happen if I turned every single Microsoft employee loose for a week to do whatever they wanted? I wonder what would happen. Because he had read about growth hacking and growth mindset and wanted to see for himself as a leader, the new leader of this company, one of the most successful companies on the planet, what would happen if I gave people an opportunity to show me how smart they are, how clever they are? And so he announced this to the whole company on almost the first day that he took over, which was crazy, right? Just crazy for a brand new CEO of one of the most successful companies to say, hey, everybody, take a week off, do whatever you want. Sounds ridiculous, but he did it, and guess what? 4 months later, when we had the hackathon, 11,000 Microsoft employees showed up to participate, and we generated about 5,000 new projects in 3 days. And out of those projects, there were some incredible new ideas, and this is a clear signal to us that all of your employees and you all have great ideas. We just needed a mechanism to listen to them. Like, we didn't have a listening mechanism. So the hackathon and the judging and the sharing of projects, that became our mechanism for harvesting good ideas and try to figure out what to do with them and just share them amongst people. So fast forward 12 years later, we're still running the world's biggest hackathon at Microsoft. It happens, during September usually. We had 74,000 Microsoft employees participate this year. So just imagine, and there was 20,000 projects, about 7,000 videos were created for these projects that we had to sort through and watch all of them. But that's an incredible amount of outpouring of ideas happening all the time. And so that was a clear signal to us that people everywhere and anywhere have great ideas. But you, as leaders, you have to be willing to listen. You have to make space to really, truly hear what people are telling you and then give them an opportunity, perhaps, to move some of these ideas forward. And that's what we do in the garage. And the way that we sort of foster this creative outlet, this way of doing it is just saying, hey, it's okay. You don't have to hide this from your managers. And when we started doing the garage a little over 10 years ago, it was kind of like a speakeasy sort of deal, right? There was people like, they would buy 3D printers and hide them in closets. And they didn't want to tell their managers that they were, working on the garage stuff because it just wasn't work. But now we know we've had to build in a time within everybody's week or everybody's day for them to start to think a little more carefully about other things that they could be doing or different ways of doing things. So we sort of baked this idea into our corporate culture that creativity and exploring and being curious was incredibly important to us doing well as a company. So it's actually turned out pretty well for us. So here we are, today, stock's doing great. We have amazing products. We're one of the leaders in the AI space. But the reason that we were able to do that is that we got out of the way of doing things where it was just like, so we have a schedule, right? We're going to stick to this. We're doing this thing. We started questioning what we were doing and why we were doing it on a more regular basis, which led to more exploration, more innovation, and finally, the ability to actually leap forward in some ways. You probably know, Microsoft has been doing this for a very long time. We're generally not regarded as an innovative company, which is a really bad narrative because it's not true. I've been at the company for 24 years. Microsoft is a highly innovative company, but we're usually 10 years too early. So we invent something because we're an engineering company. In our DNA, we are engineers. And so we invented the smartphone. We invented the tablet. We invented like all these things that were 10 years too early, and there was no market for them. So I think now we're sort of getting our groove back, and we figure out when is the appropriate time to introduce technologies. But for us, it all sort of comes back to culture. The introducing new technology is great, and it's what we make money doing. But that wasn't why we became more successful. We became more successful because we made a change to how we approach our work, which is kind of what I'm trying to leave you with. Many companies try to be innovative, and I applaud those companies that are trying, but you have to do more than have innovation theater. You have to actually make it count. You have to truly look at what's going on and figure out is this something that we can use or not? If it's not, like, fine, leave it. But if there is something there, that's what's going to make your employees, your teammates, the people that you're working with now want to come to work, because it's knowing that you can bring your own idea and maybe even get a chance to do it, right? And it's not just boss knows best, right? A very hierarchical situation where everybody's roles and work is handed down to them. And we were in that spot for a long time, but now I think it's a much more distributed way of doing things where it sort of feels more ground up. So given that whole backstory, right, of how Microsoft has transformed itself into a more curious and more experimental sort of company, I'll sort of turn my attention to what I want to leave you with, which is you individually, personally, have to figure out how to use AI to help you be better at what you do. I'm not saying that you should use it to do your job, but I'm saying there's probably parts of what you do that it can accelerate or just take on for you, so that you can focus on the other thing I talked about, which is what makes you special and as a person, like what makes you valuable to the people around you. And it's much easier than people think. Most of you probably know, or maybe you don't know, that you literally can just talk to your AIs now. Like, does anybody do that? Does anybody talk to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever? Sure. Okay, so I just, like, on my phone, I have Microsoft Copilot, of course. So we're just going to do an experiment.
Hi there, Mike.
Hey, Copilot. Hey, I'm here with a bunch of my really smart friends. We're talking about innovation and creativity. What do you think people need to do to become more creative in this day of AI?
Well, Mike, that's a fantastic topic to dig into. I mean, creativity in the age of AI is really about blending your own curiosity with some of these amazing tools we've got at our fingertips, right? It's not just about using AI to do the work for you, but about pushing it in directions that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
Okay, wait, Copilot, hold on. I just said that. Okay, you sound like me. Give me something like very specific that people can do to try to be more creative.
Absolutely. Let's get real specific here. One thing people can do is to set themselves a creative constraint, like limiting the tools you use or choosing a random theme each day to riff on. It sounds counterintuitive, but having boundaries can...
No. You know what? You're right. Constraint is one of the most powerful design tools. Okay, so give me a little exercise that somebody can do to try to learn more about using AI to do their job that's time-bound.
All right, cool. We'll roll with that. Here's a neat little exercise. Set a timer for, let's say, 30 minutes and give yourself a small task that you'd normally do manually, like drafting an email, brainstorming a few ideas, or organizing a short presentation. Then use AI tools to help you speed run.
Okay, wait. I get that, but first of all, that's too much time. Second of all, how does that make me more creative? That just sounds like helping me do a task. I'm more interested in the creativity part.
Got it, Mike. Let's string that down. How about a 10-minute creativity sprint? You pick one tiny everyday problem, like maybe reimagining your morning routine with a fun twist, and you use AI to generate a couple of wild, out-of-the-box ideas super quickly. The goal isn't just to get things done, but to spark a few surprising angles you wouldn't have thought of. It's like a mini...
Okay, so you get the idea. A lot of people don't realize that they can use whatever your favorite assistant is, Claude, ChatGPT, my Copilot, as a collaborator, right? Not as an answer machine. This is the problem. I've been talking for the last 3 days about the problem with AI having become an answer machine for people, meaning you tell it your question and it gives you the answer and you copy and paste and you're done and move on to the next thing. We know that that's going to lead to a lot of really bad things. So putting some friction back in the system, making it more conversational is one thing to do. But what we just illustrated was that you literally can use these as a collaborator or as someone to bounce ideas off of, or like a teammate, the way you would talk to a friend, or someone that you normally work with. These are the things that we should all be doing more of, rather than just using it to oh my God, I hate making PowerPoint decks. Hey, Copilot, can you make me a PowerPoint deck so I don't have to do this? Blah, blah. It's like, of course it'll do that for you. But what a great opportunity to learn how to do better than you normally do. Rather than just relying on it to do a job, literally use it as a coach or as a collaborator. Does that make sense to you? Okay, does anybody do that? Okay, okay, all right, okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you do?
Well, as I mentioned to you, Mike, I'm designing my what's next. And so I created an agent. I call him Chad. And I uploaded...
Okay, wait, is Chad very handsome?
Devilishly handsome. So I trained Chad on my background and on my interests, and I throw ideas at Chad. I say, Chad, how would what I do relate to creating ballet shoes? And so then Chad will just say, well, actually, this thing you did in 1921, it's kind of related to that this way, and you should explore that, and maybe you should think about this. And so I say, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. Well, what if I don't know, turn that on my head and wanted to make cowboy hats instead? Or, hey, maybe I want to sail around the world.
Trademark, come on.
And so, and I actually put structure around it and constraint. So I dedicate an hour a day to just new thought generation.
Okay. This is the prototype. That's a long time. An hour is a long time. If you spent 20 minutes a day just exploring, just like trying things, that would be enough to start to get to where we need to get to, right? Yeah. So you're doing exactly what I would do, which is you're treating your AI as an assistant, as a coach, as a trusted advisor, as a teammate in some ways, right? Collaborator. That's a great thing to do. That's an easy way for all of you to get better at what you're really great at. It may be an opportunity also for you to explore, what is it exactly? Like, what am I doing for my organization, for my team, for my school? Like, what is it that makes me special? Because trust me, going forward, we all, regardless of where we are in our careers, we're going to have to figure out what makes us unique. And we're going to have to double down on that. Because again, the machines will be able to do a lot of the things that we're doing right now. You may also find yourself in the position of needing to be a solopreneur, right? Having to basically run your own company, whether you want to or not. And that's just the truth, right? This is what's happening all around us. So these AI assistants can help you to be highly creative in many different ways. But again, it's the creativity aspect that will set you apart from your competitors, your colleagues, your peers in a good way. Meaning it'll bring out what's most interesting about you and the things that you want to do. So given all that, I thought I would give you an opportunity to ask any questions about how we're using creativity, either in the Garage program or how I'm doing it personally. But I'm really more interested in doing a little exercise with you, if that's okay. Is that cool? Okay. So we're all here at South by Southwest to learn, right, to see what's next, to meet up with old friends, right, to do some fun things. But when we go back to work, right, when we go back to running our companies, when we go back to leading our teams, when we go back to figuring out our startups, what are we going to do? Are we just going to fall back into the same, trap of doing what we always do? Or are you going to take an opportunity to try to reassess what you're doing? That was a trick question. You are going to stop and reassess what you're doing. Okay, like do me a favor. Take 5 minutes, right? Time box it, 5 minutes, and just think. And this is what I say to all the world's most successful companies. They come in, I say the same thing. If you got to just hit the pause button on your whole business, right, and you got to restart from scratch, would you actually still do it the same way that you're doing it now, or would you try a different way? And the answer, is going to be across the board. Well, I can't because this is how it works, and it's always worked this way, and nobody's going to want it any other way. Or, wow, this is really dumb. We've been doing this the same way for 60 years, and there's really no reason to have all this overhead. Why don't we rethink this? And so this is what I do with people. I say, okay, great. Guess what? We're gonna redo parts of it. Tell me where you're going to have the most impact. And so I would ask you, when you go back and you have a free moment, right, that's sort of quiet, just think to yourself, if I was going to restart what I do, what parts of it could I do differently? The AI assistants that we have at our disposal now, and the agents and everything else, are a great opportunity to try out that new process, that new approach, that new way of doing things without actually having to do it. permanently. They're a great simulation mechanism. They're a great exercise for you to just go off and try. I'm sure most people will find something that they wish they would do differently. They're doing it because it's just always been done this way. And nobody ever questions, why do we do it this way? Well, now's your chance to not only do that, but to actually change it. And again, not to be dire about this, but if you don't, your competition will. Right? Everybody is going to have to rethink what they're doing because the speed of business, we all know, is just going faster and faster. The rate of innovation has never been this fast. And the fact is, there's a narrative that's not true, but it's the prevailing narrative that we can do more with less. Like, this is like the most cliched thing in business right now. Well, we have to do more with less. Well, guess what? The people who are, paying the bills are making sure that you're doing more with less. Right, because they're getting rid of resources and people, and reassigning things to be able to be more efficient, but also to look at the growth areas that we talked about. So that's one example of something I would love all of you to do, is just take the time to rethink what you're doing. Use your new friend, right, your new agent or your new AI assistant to just say, like, hey, how could I do this differently? How could I approach this in a totally new way that would buy me some time or get me a better result? And I'm sure that it's going to say something that you didn't expect, which is sort of the fun of this whole thing, is that these agents and these large language models have been trained in a way that will probably surface ideas that you just didn't think of yourself. So as a designer and a technologist, I use it in the innovation process to speed up the ideation part. So we have a very simple process that I think I was telling you earlier, where typically we will ideate, meaning like we have to do something, let's think of all the ways we could do it. Okay, great, that seems like the better idea. Let's try to de-risk that. Like, what could go wrong? Like, how can we make this more efficient? Let's be more realistic about this big idea if we're going to really do it. And oh, by the way, who could be a potential sponsor? Like who would really benefit if we did this thing? Let's go talk to them and see what they think. And then finally, you hack it into existence in some way, meaning you just make it real enough to go try out, either on real people or within a process. And then finally, you'll figure out whether that was worth doing or not. So this innovation cycle can be accelerated by using AI assistance in the generation of ideas, right? You say like, hey, Copilot, what are 5 new ideas for doing blah, 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 blah. And, it has to be in this constraint, and don't do that, and don't tell me to try this. Go. And it'll do it in seconds. Things that used to take us weeks or months to do are now literally done in seconds. So we at Microsoft use Copilot specifically and agents to accelerate parts of our innovation process. The thinking of ideas, the market strategy, the figuring out the process, being able to just try different things very quickly without ever building them, right? Without having to spend the money to go off and actually build them. So again, for me, creativity is really the thing that will differentiate you, and that's why I want you to at least consider what you can do to try to become a bit more creative, either in your thinking or approach to your business, because that's what's going to get you to growth, and that's what's going to keep you in business. Fair? Okay. All right. So
All right.
we have 15 minutes left, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
15.
So I would love to talk to you about anything you want to talk about. If you want to do a little exercise with me as to how we can do this, then I'm happy to do that. But go ahead.
Yes, maybe it's not necessarily about exercise, but we're not very familiar with Microsoft Garage. I wanted to ask you a quick question about it. Do you guys develop hardware there as well, or it's more or less like software?
So the Microsoft Garage program will take any kind of idea and try to help people to make it real. In many of we have 15 garages around the world, and many of them we do have 3D printers and circuit boards and like all that stuff. Hardware is a very special thing, right? It's very expensive. It takes a lot of time to get it right. It's not part of what most people do, but we do have it available, yes.
Well, thank you so much. To what level do you take this? I'm sorry to kind of pound on this question a little bit further, but I just want to make sure I understand.
To what degree?
Well, okay, you could make a initial prototype, proof of concept. Do you take it to actually product development?
Gotcha. Okay. So this program that I run, the Garage, is really meant to be the beginning of this whole process. So we help people to hack their ideas into existence in some form. It could be a PowerPoint deck, it could be a piece of running code, it could be a movie, it could be people waving their arms. Like, it doesn't really matter as long as you can show somebody your idea. Yeah, but once you have that, it's sort of up to them to figure out, do they really want to continue doing this? Is this something that a product team would be interested in? But we don't build things, like we don't go straight to production from ideas we generate in the garage. We're really more about the upstream ideation and creation of ideas.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I don't want to hug the microphone all the time, so.
Mr. Maxim Yago.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Maxim.
So I have a question for you about what constitutes creativity, because it's my understanding that artificial intelligence systems, autonomous systems, already trump human creatives in every metric. And so they already qualify as creative because of the metrics that we have, right? So there's the classic thing, here's a house brick, come up with ways to use it, and AI will just blow any human being out of the water for that. So my question is there any aspect of human creativity, organic, authentic, natural human creativity, that remains absolutely superior to what I'm going to call synthetic intelligence creativity?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to buy you a drink for asking this question, okay? Because you are completely wrong. And Matt, by the way, Maxim is a friend of mine. He's an incredibly intelligent person, but he's totally wrong on this. I'll tell you why.
We'll see who buys who a drink.
Yes. The machines don't truly exhibit human creativity in the same way. And I read the most amazing sort of synopsis of this. One of the world's greatest Go players, you know the game Go, one of the world's greatest Go players was playing a machine system, right? And he was defeated by this machine. And one of the moves that the machine made was very creative. And he actually said in an interview after the match, the machine did something very creative I didn't expect it to do, and he lost the match. And afterwards, someone who actually worked on that system said, it's interesting that you say that the machine made a very creative move, because to the machine it was completely and utterly logical. There was no creativity involved. It's just that people read it as being creative because it was unexpected. And so I will say that every single AI system that we have designed to date, and many of them we don't really understand how the neural networks work in every detail, but they are not exhibiting human creativity. They're being the most logical that they could possibly be given the prompt. It just appears to be creative to squishy humans, right, who love emotion and feelings. But in reality, we can mimic, right? We can mimic on the machines how people process, how they think, how they speak, how they act. But there's a distinction between the heart and the soul and what makes us human beings and what we're able to teach machines how to do, or what they figure out how to do on their own. So I would say that, and I will say too, I admit that at some point it will be indistinguishable, right? At some point, but it's not today, right? And it will be for different reasons. So that was a great question, but thank you.
I want to push back on that, because you're talking really about
I'm sorry, so, who are you? Because I'm so
Greg
curious.
Stock. I wrote a book called Generation AI, The Transformation of Human Being, and I've done a lot of stuff
Excellent.
in
Okay, great.
evolutionary
So
biology.
you're
and
an
such.
expert.
And you're talking about mechanism.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, oh, the machine isn't creative because it looks like that to us, but it was just logical. Although, actually, it's quite probabilistic, and you can tune it in various ways. Yeah. So it's making connections that would not have been noticeable to us. It's manifesting what we interpret as creativity. So
In the way, just to be clear, in the way that our brains perhaps make connections that we wouldn't have normally thought about. sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't understand what's going on
Yeah.
in the brain either.
Right.
So maybe AI won't understand itself any better than we understand ourselves.
Fair, yes.
And so if you're doing a simulation of creativity and it thinks it's being creative, who the hell knows? I mean, if you have,
like that, yes.
if we look at large language models and it's just token probability, well, you look at people and they go, wow, that's amazing. It seems like it's really thinking, it's creative. And yet, if you talk to anybody about politics, then they'll make some comment about the national debt and war and whatever it is, and you go, wow, that's really amazing. And you realize they know nothing about it. It's just superficial. They're just taking what they heard on the evening news and sort of patching them together in the same way. And so
that
who
is
knows
the
what's
beauty of
going on
human
with all this
beings, right?
stuff. Yeah, exactly. I think, so I'm just saying that the mechanism, who knows, and what it is now, people don't really understand it
Right.
very well. And
So thank you for bringing up that point. That was great. So this is one of the scariest things. So I've been in the high-tech industry forever. This is the first time in history that we have ever had software where we didn't know what was going to happen when we gave it instructions. It's always been deterministic forever up to this point. And now some of the people who build these AI systems and who test these AI systems and who research them don't actually know how the inner loop is figuring out what it's doing, which is frightening to me, having come through this, being able to predict exactly what was going to happen always. And now we're into a completely new realm of who knows what's going on, just like people. So thank you for making that point. It's a great one. And again, I mean, me personally, I don't care if the machine is truly creative or not. It's coming up with some amazing things that make me happy or solve a problem or show something in a different light. So who cares? You can get into the discussion about should human beings have relationships with AIs, as a companion, as a confidant, as a whatever. In some ways you could say, well, that's very unnatural, it's weird, you're talking to a machine, you fell in love with a machine, like that's not normal. In other ways, the human condition is such that maybe it's fine. If that's what makes the person happy, why should we care? So maybe in the same way, if the machine came up with something creative, why should we care? Any other questions? Yes.
I'm curious about this idea of, creating a culture in a large organization like Microsoft. How do you embed that into your culture? Is it what are the key factors related to that?
So you're talking about intrapreneuring, right? So
Yeah.
being an intrapreneur is very different than being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship, I've been an entrepreneur, so I'm speaking of what I know, is extremely easy compared to intrapreneurship, where you have so many constraints and the weight of history, and we've tried that 5 times before, and you're not supposed to be doing that. And intrapreneuring is about figuring out how to navigate the structure, right, in a way that makes sense to the organization. So I teach people how to do this in the garage. So my first answer is, if you want to know, come and see me in the garage. A friend of mine named Ed Essie just wrote a book called The Inside Job that describes how we do what we do in the Microsoft garage. It's a great new book. It's out. But the real important part of this is you can never get innovation to work in a large organization that doesn't want innovation to work, meaning the culture is not right. And that's why I started off by talking about corporate culture and the importance of understanding it and being able to figure out how to navigate it. Because ultimately, you can do this as a pirate and you can go off and do whatever, but at some point you're going to get nowhere because you don't have a sponsor who's willing to help you. So in our process of ideation and hacking and validation and sponsorship, the sponsorship is actually supposed to be at the very beginning. Because as soon as you have a great idea, you need to go find somebody who can help you champion it and to help sponsor, meaning either put money or whatever behind it. But the trick that we learned was to go off and do your project and find a sponsor who might be interested, but don't ask them for anything. Say, hey, if I come back to you with a working prototype and some data that shows you that this is actually something, would you help us figure out how to move this forward in the organization? So if you go to the right sponsor, meaning the person who could actually benefit from this, the chances are, of course, they'll say, of course you can come back to me when it's all working. But that's how you navigate, one trick to navigating large organizations that have committed budgets and no headcount and are trying to figure out how to fire half their employees. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just about Microsoft Garage itself. So do you also run an equivalent Garage internally for Microsoft? Or because I understand.
Tell me more.
So what I'm thinking is, right, you have all these external customers, they have these problems, they come to you, we've run through the ideation process, et cetera.
Yep.
That's amazing. Is there something equivalent? I'm at Microsoft and it's like, okay, do I also go to the Garage, or is there a separate organization?
No, it's the same thing. So the Garage mainly is for employees.
Okay.
Because I'm in New York, it's a unique opportunity to interact with our customers because a lot of them are there. So I have an opportunity to do it external facing, but most of the Garage program is internally facing for employees.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so you got the whole thing. Creativity is really important. It's going to set you apart. You have to practice, okay? Okay. You ready? Want to go get some coffee? All right, let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.